Hello and welcome back to SML Total Access. It is COVID cough edition. I'm Prime Time, and with me is Matt. What's up, brother?
Hey man, glad to be back. Glad you brought me back. I heard the fans wanted to hear us again, so here we are.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying this might be the duo that everybody wanted to see, so here we are.
Yeah, I
Um,
believe that.
hey, Matt, you know how it goes here. We don't dilly dally. We get right into it. And first down, it's a doozy. Folding chair. Meats has always had the title that he's the folding chair. And he's obviously tried pushing that off, and he's your co host on Eminem and Morning. Shout out. Can he really lose that title? And secondly, who's the folding chair, or is there a new folding chair? What's your thoughts on all of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can always shed a negative nickname. You get these negative nicknames because you're doing negative things, and what always fixes negative narratives?
Winning.
Winning. If you win, what can people say?
Yep.
Unless it's Faz, they can call you boring. But
Yep.
if you're winning, it makes it hard for the critics to say anything. So Meats can shed that title. I think Meats. I don't. I think it's. I mentioned this last time. I brought up Paulie, who kind of does the same thing as Meats. Great regular season guy, doesn't win in the playoffs. That's exactly what Meats does. I think Meats just has that longevity, and he got the title first, and people it's just stuck with it. So I think he can shed it. I think it is Meats until he does. But he can shed it.
Yeah, he can shed it. The problem is when he got this nickname, it was a lot easier for him to win in the SML, and he had a team that was loaded with players that were unbelievable. This was right when superstar abilities came in, and it's going to be tough for him to shed it now. I think his competition's a little bit better, and he doesn't quite have the same team. Chargers are a good team, but not like the Ravens team he had when he really got the title. Um, my I guess I'm going to say folding chair to be, and really somebody who might be eclipsing Meats as the new folding chair, if you will, is Doink Face. Just to give you, and just so people don't say, oh, there's Prime with his narratives, I'm coming with facts here. Um, Doink Face took the Raiders. Well, he didn't have a choice. He got the Raiders. RD had left the league. And his first season, it was kind of tough for him to make the playoffs. He had to do well. He had to make a push for things, and he was winning towards the end there. He had a game against Dan. It wasn't quite a win and in game, but it was like, hey, you have to beat Dan. And he was close late, and then Doink Face did what Doink Face does, and he threw an interception late in the fourth quarter, middle of the fourth quarter. It really put him out of the game. Comes in second season, trades for Aaron Rodgers, signs Devontae Adams, pairs that with Henry Ruggs and Waller, and then that's when the doink happens in the playoffs with a win now Raiders team. Then blip happens, gets the Bucks. They're stacked. This Bucks team is loaded. He has a great regular season, and then out of all the people to lose to in the playoffs, he loses to Knoll on a throw that was late against it looked like a cloud hard flat coverage, a route that I would throw a lot. He throws it late, throws a pick, loses the game after he gets rejuvenated with a restart. Um, and then the season after that, just recently, he's playing Bomber in a game everybody's watching because it's the end of Mad Bomber, and he could really knock Bomber out of the playoff race. He has three drives to win the game, to ice the game, and all three drives, one ends in a pick on a rollout, another one ends on another doink, and then in overtime, it ends on like a three and out or something. I mean, this guy is anti-clutch in my opinion.
Oh, he's 100% anti-clutch. If you watch him play, in those kind of at just your typical week 4 game, where he looks amazing. The guy can pass.
Yep.
Now we haven't seen him without a great quarterback yet, but he can pass. He fits it
Yep.
into tight windows. He can play defense. He can run the ball. You're thinking, and I was thinking when the playoffs started, man, this is my dark horse. And no one's talking about this guy. He looks amazing. The Bucks are amazing. Brady's amazing, and he fizzles out in the first round, and all the things that you talked about too. So yeah, I think no one's really mentioned it because they talk about the unclutchness, but if this continues, especially if he goes out in the first round again, maybe Meats. is pushing in the wrong direction with
Yeah.
trying to go to at Pauly or these other people. Maybe he goes Doink Face this way.
Yeah, you got to go to Doink Face because not only is his team good, but now he's got losses where he shot himself in the foot, and now he's lost to players who I think he's favored against, which is somebody like Noel. So I don't know. Moving on, second down, if you're good. 70-30 rule, obviously always a hot topic of discussion in the SML, at least for one player. What's your thoughts on the 70-30 rule? Does it need changed? Give us the running king's opinion.
Personally, I don't think it should be changed. I think the only thing that I didn't like about it, maybe last year and maybe before the blip this year, was just that the mantra that it was a strict. I've got my calculator out. I'm looking at every Daddy League's box score, and I'm trying to find out who broke the 70-30 rule.
Yeah.
You had come out and said, oh, well, it's game specific. I mean, if you go down 21-0 for what, a couple kickoff return fumbles or whatever it is, I I mean, you might have to pass more. Maybe you have 75-25 now. But you could look at you can go to the stream and you can say, "Oh, okay, you had to pass a little more." So, I like the rule because if I don't want people to run the ball or if I don't want people to pass the ball, I'll go play Mutt. I
Hmm.
don't play Mutt because that's not what I want. I want a balanced attack because with the exception of maybe some Tim Tebow box scores, the NFL is balanced because if you're not, you're going to pay for it. Whereas in Madden, it, last cycle, I could have ran every single play and I probably would have lost fewer games, not
Yep.
because I was a good runner, but because I was a bad enough passer that when I passed, I got myself into trouble. And if I never had to pass, I never threw interceptions. I played good defense. That's not fun for anyone. I mean,
Yep.
it's honestly not even fun for me. That's why I'm passing more. I want to be better at it. So I like the rule as long as that wiggle room stays where it's game flow
Yeah,
based.
I agree, and it's something to consider. Looking at it from two perspectives, which is yours. I'm not gonna parrot you, but yeah, I mean it's good for balance. I think it's good for overall gameplay. There's some people who complain. They say, you know, we shouldn't have a 70-30 rule. Well, if you don't like people running already, then imagine somebody who runs it 90% of the time instead of only 65% of the time. But looking at it, you know, I'm just gonna say it. Faz not a big guy. He's one of the guys against the 70-30 rule, and he's been in since last cycle, which there's been over around 2,000 SML games played since then. Um, and really, that I know of, he's only had one, maybe two or three games that he's seen where we maybe policed the rule a little off. And that's well under even 10% of those games. So, and it's such a rule that, like you said, there's not a hard line on it. You can't say, well, you threw it 75% of the time. That's illegal. You have to look at the stats. And also, something to consider, if somebody gets suspended because they broke a rule and another guy doesn't, I tend to go back and I look at other games and say, okay, is this guy throwing the ball a lot or running the ball a lot throughout every game and then trying to fudge his numbers late? That's something I try to look back into when I issue a suspension for that, because what I've seen are some trends where some guys try to fudge it, where maybe they like to blow guys out throwing the ball and then a little late in the game, then they anticipate handing it off to kind of fix it. So I look at that, and that's when I'm more likely to issue a suspension for a 70-30 violation. That's kind of what I try to do if there's patterns with it. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's not like it's 60-40 or 50-50. 70-30, I feel it's like a pretty good baseline for still allowing you to do what you want to do on offense without getting too far into the mud area, which
Yep.
is pretty much 100% pass, except for some unique styles that probably
Yeah.
prefer to run the ball. But
Yeah. It's actually hard for me to throw it 70 or run it 70% of the time. I'm naturally in the 60% range, really. Naturally, it's hard for me to call one style of play that much. But um, so moving on to third down, EA recently restated that, hey, we're going to have more updates on the way for franchise of Madden 22. Do you have something that you have your eye on for updates or anything?
yeah, I've got one that's kind of overarching, and then I've got a more specific one. So the first overarching thing is I would like to see them give the commissioner just more options. We've kind of gotten into. I think you have slider options, and you can set force wins, and so they started to open up some things somewhat recently in the last few years. But why can't you set the overtime quarter, for instance? Like
Yep.
something so simple to just give you the opportunity to do. Um, just give us more options. If you want to ban or if you want to ban recuperation and energizer and so that these guys can't get these abilities, it would be nice if you could do that because those are all useless. And if someone, I mean, I don't want everybody to have freight train or jukebox, but gosh, when someone gets energizer, it's literally useless. So I'd like to see that, but focusing on the actual franchise free agency, man. It's been the same forever. I'm a little worried now because I think the scouting actually took a step backwards when it was so stale for
Yeah.
many many years, and then they suddenly now we don't even do anything, and it's like okay, well you changed it, but now we do less.
Yeah.
But honestly, if they just took away the visual cue of this is who's bidding and the little green bar, and it was just all blind, that would be a simple enough fix. They wouldn't have to touch anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's some things as a commissioner that I would view as a godsend. Like for example, there are some very functional things that they used to market as tools to commissioners, such as something as simple as the Madden Companion app. Um, like right now, I can't set force winds through the app anymore. Previously, the last 2 or 3 Madden cycles, I could set a force wind and do that. Now I can't. Now I have to load up to the game every time, and it's a minor inconvenience because you never know where you are and when something needs to be done. So that's just something that's just broke. It just randomly broke this time, sometime this cycle that EA can't seem to fix. Another thing I would be interested in, and this is a big one to me, is just allow guys to start games from when a disconnect happened. You know, if if there's a desync or a disconnect or something, somebody quits, let them pick it back up. You allow it versus computer, allow it versus user. I mean, there's that. There would be the ability to reset a score of a game. Let's say there's a game and somebody just did something completely atrocious and something happened late in the game and we want to reset it. I would love the ability just to say, hey, this game is deleted and you can replay it. Stuff like that. And all these things I'm listing aren't even gameplay gameplay specific. They're just things outside of the game that I'd love to fix. And obviously, like you said, the overtime rules would be great. Overtime quarter alone would be great. But we'll probably never get it.
Yeah, and something someone brought up a good point the other day. So I hate the whole one pause per side because
Yeah.
that's totally a online random head-to-head thing, which I understand in that instance. But let the commissioner set it to whatever number they want. But someone brought up if you pause to challenge or you just pause because your kid's running around or whatever, and then you want to challenge, you can't because
Hmm.
there's no dedicated challenge button.
Yep.
So I just very simple things that these don't even take paid employees. They've got EA game changers, I think.
Yeah.
How are these ideas not getting implemented? They're super simple.
Yeah. Awful. Awful. They went from 5 pauses a half to one a half. I mean, that's like one end of the spectrum to the other for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
they don't care.
So moving on now, fourth down. This is a big game coming up here. Actually, late tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern. I guess depending on who you are, it's late. Faz versus Dan. A lot of hype was said, obviously, between these guys. Big rivalry, NFC Championship game rematch. Hey, both are 500, and whoever wins this game or whoever loses this game will be last in the division. Who do you got winning this game, and what do you think is going to be the outlook, I guess, beyond this game or the repercussions for a loser?
Yeah, boy, I'm excited for this one. I'm glad it's only 8 p.m. for me. That'll be an easy watch. But I gosh, you're talking about two guys who prepare, who study, Dan especially. But if Faz is paying any attention, and I'm sure he is, his rest of the season schedule is absolutely brutal. He, I don't want to throw around the word must win with someone like Faz who can beat anybody, but this game means a lot to him, and for that reason, I'm going to pick him. I think he needs to. stick to coward ball as he calls it, maybe run a little bit more. He has, I think someone said he had 9 yards per carry with PNC.
Wow.
So I think he needs to stick to that a little bit more. Dan's going to probably try and bore him to death. Dan's not one to, you know, he's not gonna. Oh, or Faz's gonna call me a coward if I run. I'm gonna pass. He's not gonna fall into that trap. He's gonna try and win the game. So the outlook for the loser, if Faz loses, he's in trouble. His schedule, and even if he wins, he might be in trouble. He plays QP next, D Muse, Dump, Future,
Wow.
RD,
Oh man.
Doink, Monty, Doink, Dan, and then
Oh
he
my
two step.
goodness.
I mean, he could win all of those games, and outside of two-step, he could lose them all. Meanwhile, Dan's got it a little bit easier. He does play Future next, NYT playoff rematch, and I know he almost lost that game. But then he's got Field, who's struggling, and obviously very busy in real life. Pookie, who's 4-2, but come on, Dan should win that game. Tiny, he should win that one. Finns, Grams, he's got winnable games if he loses.
Yeah.
He finishes the season against Colt. This game means a lot more to Faz than it does to Dan going forward just from a who's going to make the playoffs perspective.
Wow. And I'm gonna take fast, same reason as you, because it means more. And sometimes, and I've been in this spot late in the season, I've kind of had the playoffs kind of wrapped up and I've played guys who just kind of want it more and I've lost said games. But if you're Dan and you really don't want to play Faz in the playoffs. I mean, Faz is probably the scariest player in the NFC if he's on his game with that Panthers team. If you're Dan, you kind of smell blood in the water. You're like, hey, if I can beat Faz here, look at his schedule. I mean, this could go a long way in ending the season because you don't know how these games are going to play out. So if you're Dan, you're kind of like a shark a little bit, and if he can channel that motivation, that could be scary, especially for somebody who wants to help put the drive the nails down in the coffin of Faz. Um, Moving on now, if you're good, um, to the extra point. Is there reason for optimism, or do you see a player in the SML who might be struggling, but hey, you know what? They've got this reason, or they can hold on to this and have some hope for the rest of this season, or maybe the rest of the cycle.
Yeah, I actually I last this is a great question because last night I thought this exact same thing, and I'm gonna go with our lone non-American in Finns
Wow.
because I watched him. He played Noel last night, and that was a close game. And he's honestly been playing better ever since the blip. He's been doing a lot better. He's in a weak division. Yeah, Noel's doing really well, but I mean, it's still Noel, and until I see some, that push into the play deep into the playoffs by him, I'm not quite convinced. Um, he only lost that game by 10. He's got Clink in the division who is offensively challenged like me and relies on a defense which he doesn't yet have with the Lions, and it's hard to play defense in this game. So I've seen a lot of good things from Fins. He can run the ball well. Um, he can pass decently well. He makes a lot of boneheaded mistakes, like at the end of the half. Noel had just scored a touchdown, I believe, kicked off, and then Fins threw a pick six. He could have taken a knee, maybe ran the ball, maybe not thrown that pick.
Yeah.
It's just little things like that put him behind the eight ball. And I think it just steamrolls and he loses. But he's a good player. He was actually really competitive in almost all of his games last cycle
Yeah.
in Madden 21. So I think he can. I think he can win this division. Rodgers isn't going to play forever. So if I'm Finns, I've got a first round pick this year. Um, eh, you know, one thing I have noticed is he's one of those players that doesn't roll out, but it's just one of those those things that you do without thinking where you kind of drift.
Yeah.
You hike the ball and you just drift. And he missed a wide open touchdown because he did that with Fields,
Hmm.
and it was an on the run throw and he missed it. So just work on a couple of things at a time. Maybe get some tips. Maybe listen to this and take the tips. But you're not far off, buddy. You're in games. Limit the mistakes. I think Finns can be a playoff team by winning the NFC North.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm actually looking at Fig Newton. He's 0-6, I believe. Um, and he's thrown 21 interceptions to 8 touchdowns. And that's really sometimes when you look at players and you're like, okay, you've lost a lot of games. Let's figure out what it is. And sometimes I'll see players whose stat lines aren't that bad, But then I look at the game and I'm like, holy crap! On third down and 15, you threw a stick route and you got 2 yards and you didn't have a chance and it was late in the game or something like that. Just really bad play calling. With Fig Newton, it's really simple what I see. This guy is top 10 in the league in yards and seventh in the league in rushing yards with only 84 rushing attempts. The way I see it with Fig is we know your issues interceptions. You make a lot of bad reads. So we've identified that. Your reason for hope is okay, can you do anything to help that? And right now with Chase Edmonds, you're averaging 8 yards a carry. He's a solid running back. Start running the ball a little bit more. That'll keep the line to gain a little bit shorter, make it more manageable. Start working in them speed receivers on some drag routes, a little more underneath stuff, and then you can open up your playbook and go deeper. I think he knows he's got speed and he wants to take those shots, but you have to open that up a little bit. You have to run it. You have to hit the check downs, and then all that'll open up and then some. So good news or bad news for Fig is he hasn't won a game. Good news is you can move the ball. You have some pieces. You have to show a little more patience, and everything will open up then.
Yeah, and just real quick on Fig, I think that's a good point because he played me tough the last two times I played him, and he is a good runner. He broke off some huge runs on me, but he compounds it with frustration. So he gets really frustrated, and then he just gets away from the game plan. He just hikes it, chucks it. You're not. I understand getting frustrated in this game. It's very easy, but you just need to find a way to push that aside and still play your game and not compound the issues and then get even more frustrated. KJ is kind of like that too.
Yeah,
Sometimes he'll change the camera angle when
yeah,
he's struggling. Like just try and get rid of all that and just maybe just focus. Even if it's a blowout, focus on getting better at something. I want to hit corner routes better, or
yeah.
I'm just gonna read the safeties every play, or I'm just gonna try and different runs. Like get that frustration out so you don't end up taking a two-score lead or a two-score deficit into a four-score blowout, and then you're talking about retiring.
Yeah, yeah. One final thing on Fig, I notice he likes his Quez Watkins. Sometimes he'll focus in on a receiver. One thing I'd like to see Fig do more is utilize the tight ends. Tight ends are really good this game if you use them properly. So
And he should have two good ones in Henry and Johnny Smith. So,
yeah, yeah, he's got some options. So there's some reason for hope, and maybe next episode or something, we'll do this again, or who knows. Matt, we're at 22 minutes. Do you have any final thoughts?
no, man, I'm ready for this Faz Dan game.
Let's get fired up. Fazdan tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern. I'm Prime. That's Matt. Get fired up, boys. That's SML Total Access. Until next time, we'll see you later.